Hi, welcome to Cooking with Victoria. Today we are making Tipsy cherry scones. They're tipsy because they have some booze in them. So we're gonna get started. I have 2 cups of all-purpose flour. I'm gonna add a 1/4 cup of white sugar, and I have a tablespoon of baking powder and a pinch of kosher salt. And we're just gonna mix it together. I'm just using a fork. Doesn't really make a big difference. So we've got that kind of mixed. And then here I have 1 stick of unsalted butter, cold, and it's cut into cubes. And then we're just gonna dump that all in. And then this is the fun part. I like to kind of toss it to kind of coat the butter with flour. And then what you start to do is you kind of, I'll move forward a little bit. You kind of squish it and you kind of rub your hands together. And you're starting to kind of squish the butter, and sometimes I'll even actually take my fingers and just, they're big pieces, you can squish them. And the goal is you want to get kind of like coarse, like pea size and dime size kind of bits of butter. And you want to work as quickly as you can because you want the butter to stay cold. Otherwise, they won't be nearly as flaky. So just kind of squish, 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 squish. And you can use a pastry cutter, although I think it's kind of silly to buy one when you have hands. So we've got just very crumbly with some kind of like dime size maybe bits of butter. And that's beautiful. Okay. So next, what we're going to do, scrape that off our hands. Still a little bit of flour, but it's good luck. Here I have dried cherries, which I added 1/3 of a cup. It was 3/4 of a cup of dried cherries, 1/3 of a cup of Kirschwasser, which is a cherry brandy, and I put them in a small saucepan over medium-low heat for about 7 minutes. It got bubbly and it saturated the dried cherries and just kind of soaked in all that delicious flavor. And so they're plump and they have booze in them. They're delicious. I'm just gonna just wash my hands really quick. So what we do is then we can just take our fork and just kind of toss these in. The flour will just kind of coat them and keep them separated so they're evenly distributed throughout our beautiful scones. And then we're going to add our wet mixture. I have 1 beaten egg, about a tablespoon of Kirschwasser, I added a little more, and a 1/4 cup of buttermilk. So we're just gonna pour in our wet mixture and just sort of start stirring it. It's just gonna slowly come together. And then once most of the dry mixture kind of seems absorbed, you can actually start to kind of get in there with your hands. And you don't want to really overdo it because you want the butter to stay fairly cold. And everything you put into the butter should be cold, like the cherries. Let those cool. So I'm just kind of gently just kneading it together to just bring in all the dry ingredients. Okay, so we've got our scone dough together, and we're just going to lightly flour our work surface. The dough should still be pretty sticky, but it should have come together pretty well. So here we have our scone dough. And I never roll out my scones because I really don't think it's necessary, because it's not like it's pie crust. It doesn't really have to be that thin or anything. So what I do is I just flour the board, and I just kind of pat it out to the size and shape that I want to cut it. So just So I usually will do like a rectangle, although you can also do it in circle and cut it into wedges, but I've always done it this way, so I think it's just fine. You can also use a round cutter if you want to make round scones. Oops. And I'm going to use a bench scraper. You could also use a knife. So it's a little sticky still. So I'm going to kind of make it like a long rectangle, about 3/4 of an inch thickness. So I'm going to use my bench scraper, and I'm just going to cut straight down. And then what I like to do is I actually like to flip the scone over because the bottom is nice and flat. And it's a parchment lined baking sheet. I'm just going to continue cutting my scones. If you lose a little cherry, just return it. You don't want to lose any of those delicious cherries. And I'm just going to keep cutting my scones. So these are almost ready to go into the oven. I usually like to use heavy cream to brush my scones. I'm going to use half and half today because that's what I have, and it's close enough. It's not a big deal. You could use egg wash. I usually don't. I find that egg wash is usually really, really golden, and I like it to just be a little bit paler. I think it looks a little more rustic. It's really pretty. So I'm just going to brush the tops. Just the tops, don't let it drip down the sides. And also I usually will sprinkle like really coarse sugar on top of my scones, and it gives it a really great crunch. But today we are going to glaze the scones with a delicious cherry glaze. So we're going to omit the coarse sugar. And I have an oven is preheated to 400 degrees, and they're going to bake for about 15 to 20 minutes. Switch front to back in the oven about halfway through cooking, and they should be golden and puffy and delicious. So I have taken these out of the oven, and they are completely cool, and as you can tell, they have like a really nice kind of pale finish. It's not really super shiny or really, really dark golden, but it looks kind of rustic, and I just think it's very pretty. So we're gonna make the glaze now. I have half a cup of confectioner sugar, and I have a tablespoon of milk and half a tablespoon of Kirschwasser. And we're just gonna add that in here and just stir until it's nice and smooth. And once this is all mixed, you can either glaze it as is, or you can add a little bit of red food coloring to make it pretty pink. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to use, this is actually Canadian food coloring. I know it sounds kind of random, but I found that food coloring is so much cheaper in Canada than it is in the US. So that's why I bought my food coloring. The only problem is it doesn't come with a little dripper. So I'm just going to have to be really careful and just take a little bit to my spoon. The equivalent of a few drops maybe. So let's see how that goes. So just do this. So then we're just going to take the spoon and just drizzle over our scones. However you feel like doing it, just really, really simple. So pretty. And it's delicious too. It kind of has like a little boozy, cherry kind of flavor. It tastes like candy. So it's really simple. and a nice alternative to just topping with the sugar. And then when you've glazed all of the scones, you can just let them sit for a little bit and the glaze will actually kind of dry out and firm up just a little bit. But I'm impatient, so I'm gonna taste one right away. So here, I'm just gonna break off a little piece. And you can see how like just flaky and it's soft and it's just such a beautiful texture. Oh, that's good. Delicious. Tipsy cherry scones. They're perfect with tea. They're delicious with coffee, milk, whatever you'd like. I hope you enjoyed visiting me in the kitchen today. Thank you for watching Cooking with Victoria. I'll see you next time.